Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CM Trading. Today's April 29, 2019, and today is Monday morning. So looking at the major economic events of the day, just one event coming out of England, United Kingdom that is. Bank of England, Governor Carney will be speaking at 10:30 South African time. Now, as the week cooks on, we've got a slew of major events this week, including FOMC statement and a NFP coming out this Friday. So lots of news coming up as the week actually progresses. So it might be kind of quiet right before the news comes out. But looking at the markets, looking at the Forex symbols, all the major pairs are consolidating versus the US dollar as the dollar has gotten stronger versus the major pairs. Now, the Turkish lira versus the USD has gotten quietly weaker, okay, which is kind of, as we're looking at some of the issues going around with Iran and some of the issues with Russia, Turkey is somewhere in the middle of that. Now, we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Now, looking at the indices, the Dow Jones, the DAX, the JSE are all near their resistance levels, okay? The JSE especially, and that's the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Now, looking at the commodities, gold bounces a little bit to 1283, and oil has a big sell-off last week, okay? We'll take a look at that just in a moment. And lastly, looking at the stocks, Amazon's still very strong versus all the major pairs as they have sold off, but Amazon stock has really been very strong. We're going to take a look at that as well. But let's see what we can expect from today's trading. So we're looking here at the Euro USD, which is usually the benchmark versus the dollar. Okay, it's the largest currency versus the dollar, so it is our go-to every time we analyze the dollar. Now, looking at this area, this previous support level was breached last week. I mentioned this last week actually, that this would actually be a decent breakout if it does falter it. Now, our next resistance line, okay, if we do continue to bounce, is this 1182. Okay, 111.82 is really your next resistance. So that's where I'm looking for it to actually sell off versus the dollar. Now, if we look at the other pairs versus the USD, they've also gone a little bit stronger. GBP USD also bouncing above your 30-day moving average right there. And I would say that my resistance here is somewhere between the 129.94-ish level, 130-ish level, but you can see that we still have our downwards trend line to be a potential resistance area for us. Okay, so as the dollar has been consolidating at this area, or most of the other currencies consolidating versus the dollar here, now these are really pivotal moments. Now, looking at the Aussie USD, which was the other one that broke down, okay, we're looking at a daily. Let's continue looking at a 4-hour chart just to stay in the same range. This looked like it's finally or bouncing the most here. Okay, still not breaking above the 30-day moving average, but closer to its resistance level or potentially a resistance level as we've had previous support. Okay, this would be my previous support and this would be my resistance level. So it has played catch up versus the dollar in terms of bouncing a little bit harder than some of the other pairs. But nevertheless, we are now finding ourselves in a completely new trading range, okay? As we made the correction last week, towards the end of last week, when we went to 71.95-ish level, down to 70.53. That's a nice 150 pip move just in a few days. Now, as the dollar has gotten stronger, okay, we've got to look to see if that's something as a prerequisite to this week's FOMC meeting. Okay, so that it's kind of ironic that this is happening a week before, but this is normal. Okay, as the different banks are trying to position themselves with the new interest rate decisions. So that's something to look at as the week progresses. Now, looking at the USD Turkish lira, okay, a lot of, how should I say it, drama unfolding between the two countries, between China and the United States, and between United States and Iran, and Turkey taking different sides. So the Turkish lira has quietly gotten weaker. If you look at a 4-hour chart, you can see that quite clearly. Daily chart, it's even clearer. And this was the fiasco we had back in last year. Okay, where the Turkish lira was having a very difficult time. This was the fiasco we had back in January, where United States actually pushed for the pasture to be released. Okay, that was that. and this was the economic slump that the Turkish lira was facing last summer. Okay, and we're quietly getting to this point where we're at resistance, previous support. Okay, technically speaking, if we break this, we could get back to this 633-ish area. Okay, so with that said, you got to keep a very sharp eye here if this corrects itself, because this is really a great move if it does, continue to weaken versus the USD here. Okay, so keep an eye on this because this may develop and it may happen so fast. Okay, looking at gold, just a decent bounce with nothing really to write home about. 1270 was a support level. We bounced to 1283. Again, nothing really to write home about. I don't think there's so much focus in gold this week. I think it's going to be in the back burner for a while as everybody's focusing themselves on the equity markets. Now, looking at oil, this was a sharp sell-off. Now, if you guys have been watching my daily reviews and you've been watching my resistance level, this 66.43 was my resistance level, okay? So the fact that it didn't break it, okay, tried 3 times up here, could not break it, and then finally broke the support level, okay, of 65.60, and then boom, 62.88. That's a big move. That's over a $3 move in less than a week. So major retracement for the oil. The question is the Dow Jones, which has been trading together with oil, will that continue to follow suit and make a correction like oil did? I'm not sure. But looking at this, okay, we could potentially be bouncing here as this was previous resistance, subsequent supports. So 62.88 might really be that spot. Now, the reason I say I'm not really sure about the Dow Jones is because we're getting some mixed signals from the stock market. Okay, looking at the Dow Jones, we're close to our all-time highs. Okay, if we look at a 4-hour chart for the year at least, we're close over about 100 and something points off of our all-time highs, which is a nice, a nice little, potentials that it could still go higher. Okay, we sold off last week and bouncing off this 26,365, which was a support level. Okay, you can see that quite clearly. So we're at 26,539, which is about 400 points from our all-time highs. Okay, so big recovery for the Dow Jones, as I've mentioned before several times. Now, the reason I say this is that before I jump into the stocks, I just want to discuss the JSC. At its resistance level, as you can see here on a 4-hour chart, we hit this 53,879 and sold off. We're right there above the 30-day moving average. Let's see what happens today. Okay, must be really interesting because you can see that we hit this double top right here. Okay, so this actually may, if it doesn't break above it, then it may correct itself back down. Okay, so just keep an eye on that as the equity markets continue to trade. Now, looking at what I'm talking about, if we look at Amazon, it's at its all-time highs for the year, 1948. Okay, 1,948. If you remember, we went all the way down to 1291 back in December. Okay, so that's a major correction, over 700 points. That's almost doubled. Okay, since December. Now, if we look at a daily chart, we're still shy of our all-time highs. Okay, so with that said, is there room for this to go higher? Yes. Does it warrant a correction? Perhaps. Okay, we got to see what the indicator is going to be this week to see if we're going to, push higher. Now, looking at Apple and Facebook, we sold off. So this is why I'm not convinced that the Dow Jones is going to go higher, because we're getting some mixed signals. Not everything is taking higher. Okay, so it could be that Amazon brings us higher. It could be, but you got to keep a really sharp eye to see that everything is trading in tandem to see that actually fruit. Okay, so keep that in mind. If we look at Alcoa also, it's on the bottom of the range, and this is really a bricks and mortar kind of stock. It's not like the high flying FANG stocks that I just mentioned right now, including Facebook, Apple, Amazon. This is more the traditional, businesses in the United States that are affected by the economy. So the fact that it's not retaining its $28 range, not breaking out higher, is somewhat signaling a question mark for me in my head to say that maybe the Dow Jones won't break out higher. So keep that in mind. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.